Welcome to episode 8. I'm going to start by talking about two things that parents can do that will move us towards a solution. I've been talking about and exposing the problems a lot. Unless we're willing to talk about what's really going on, we're not going to be able to solve anything unless we're both speaking the same thing. As long as somebody's saying, oh, it's all good, nothing's wrong, you're making a big deal about anything, then nothing's going to get fixed. And then there's no accountability. So today we're going to talk about how to represent your children when something happens, and if something has already happened and it hasn't been resolved, and I'm not aware of any issue that's been resolved satisfactorily. So here we go. Administrative Procedure 170 and AP 170 was sent to me by a parent. Thank you. You know who you are. And I appreciate this. I have done a lot of work and a lot of research, but I missed this one. And you know, this phrase, I heard this phrase the other day. It was a little bit, again, there's that condescension towards you as parents. It's up to the parents to be aware. It's on you if you don't do your research. So now thank you to the mom who sent this to me. And Administrative Procedure 170 is about personal, discriminatory, and sexual harassment. And I'm actually going to go to Article 2 under definitions, and it's about discriminatory harassment. And so far we've been dealing mainly with sexual issues, but this is important. Discriminatory acts against a student with respect to the learning environment or any educational program or service provided to the student because of, and it lists many things, but one of them was religion. And so what happened in this classroom, in our division, was the teacher was teaching, and she said Sir John A. Macdonald was a Christian, and he was racist. So all Christians are racist. Does anyone have any comments they'd like to make? And then she focused on the one student in the classroom that she knew was a Christian. And so she went home and discussed it with her family and her parents. And so her parents said, did you respond? And she said, if I'd have said anything, she would have lowered my grade, and I wasn't going to change her mind anyway. So I'm just going to forget about it. Well, if we could just back up a little. Sir John A. Macdonald was a Christian and he was racist. The conclusion is all Christians are racist. Under the principles of logic, all prime ministers are Christians. And then all prime ministers are racist. The key word being all. Logic is a course that is taught in university. It should probably be taught in high school, but it should be compulsory for teachers. But if you're teaching to an agenda, you don't care about logic. You don't care about common sense. And apparently, they don't care about truth. They lead and teach from a foregone conclusion with absolutely no proof. So we're going to move on to Article 3 and 3.3 and deal with sexual harassment now. So sexual harassment is defined as unwelcome sexual advances, comments, looks, suggestions, audio, and visual materials of a sexual nature, requests for sexual favors, and other verbal or physical conduct emphasizing sexuality, sexual identity, or sexual orientation. And then it goes on. But I wanted, just before I go any farther, Emerald Park is not in our school district, but as I mentioned before, this is happening all over our province. And in a grade 2 classroom, a teacher felt that it was appropriate to show a music video. It was sent to me from someone in Regina. I watched it. I posted the pictures of the booklet that came up in the Western Standard. By the way, the news article has been covered now. Not that everybody reads it, but we are getting more coverage, and that's really, really important. But this video I am not going to put on. If you would really like to see it, I will send it to you. I have sent it on to other people who have requested it, but I'm not posting it. The children went home and told their parents. Emerald Park parents, well done. I don't know what you're doing, but you've been having some good communication with your kids, and it was disgusting enough that they went home and talked about it. The teacher received a 1-day suspension, but before she left, she scolded the students for being tattletales. Now that's a grade 2 word for a grade 2 child. That's not an adult word, or one that should come out of a teacher's mouth, in my opinion. So I'm wondering how they're being treated by this teacher, because she was back in the classroom after a one-day suspension. So I'm going to go on and read 3.1. Either explicitly or implicitly, if the audio and visual material of a sexual nature is a term or condition of an individual's education. Where we're running into a problem with this is the cross-hatching, where the curriculum is into every subject. And where they never know when it's going to come. So it's not like it's just in one class and we can opt out. If it's used as a basis for scholastic decisions as a pass or fail grade, if you say, I disagree with this, because it's my own personal values, I don't believe this, do you fail? Are your marks shifted? If it interferes, 3.3, here's the key. If it interferes with an individual's school or work performance or creates an intimidating, hostile, offensive, or uncomfortable learning and working environment. And coming up in a bit, I'm going to read from a book that all grade 9s have to read and have had to for the last 4 or 5 years in a school here in the province. So the procedure, what do we do now? Before proceeding, find an adult, your parent, a teacher to get advice and skill. Make sure that you halt the harassment. Well, that's not going to happen with a teacher, but with parents going in and then them being told you're the only one, it doesn't halt it even when you tell a parent. Students and staff members, students and parents are requested to record pertinent facts which detail alleged incidents, and this is important to do. Article 2.6 under the procedures, no student or staff member, like an entire class of grade 2 students, shall be subject to reprisal, threat of reprisal, or discipline as a result of filing a bona fide claim of personal discriminatory or sexual harassment. Well, you little tattletales, I'm sorry, at a grade 2 level, that's a threat. I'm coming back and you're going to be sorry that you told on me. The maturity level is moving right along. I want to explain. This is really important because when we had the Langenberg 5 incident and there was a lot of uproar, there was a lot of letters going in to the division office, there were a lot of complaints. Why aren't you answering? Why aren't you answering? I'm going to tell you why they aren't answering. If a complaint is substantiated, a written confidential report is to be filed with the director or designate. In other words, they have a month to even get a report to Quentin. Within 1 month, appropriate disciplinary action will be taken within 1 month of receiving the written confidential report. So this incident happened in June, and it was getting close to the end of the school, and parents and people were going like, what's going on? We're not hearing anything. We're not hearing anything. According to this policy and procedure, they didn't have to answer you for a month. And then, there's summer holidays, and could you all just forget about it? So this is why it takes so long. Speaking up, sending a massive amount of emails to the division office was effective, but unfortunately, it took threat of a lawyer to get action faster than this. But if you want to know why things aren't getting resolved, it's because they've written it into their procedures. They don't have to. So what that means is if there is an incident where a student is uncomfortable in school, it can take up to 2 months for it to get dealt with. And in the meantime, they're still in the environment. I think this policy isn't worth the paper it's written on. Harassers who take retaliatory action against students who have filed complaints will be subject to additional discipline. So there's already been an incident in the school, and then the teacher's still not satisfied, so he chases them down the street with his car. The additional discipline was he got to resign instead of getting fired so he can still be hired somewhere else in the province. Okay, this is my favorite part. Are you ready? Article 6. The foregoing in the other pages I just read do not prohibit a person being harassed from making a complaint directly to the Saskatchewan Human Rights Commission. So parents, this is my thoughts. Since not one of the complaints has been satisfactorily handled at this juncture, I would start there. I would start with Human Rights Commission And I also suggest, at the same time, sending a copy to every MLA and to the Premier's office. Why? Well, they are currently, I believe it's starting tomorrow, they are currently addressing parental rights in the legislature. So email letters to all the MLAs and to the Premier's office. It would help them immensely as this is debated. Those wanting to take your rights away are speaking often, and they are speaking loudly. Lobby groups are currently suing the government for invoking the notwithstanding clause that the government instituted on your behalf and on behalf of your children. So I want to take a quick review because we're going to take a look at that story. And it's not an old story. It's not done. It's ongoing. There was a news article. I was trying to find a news article on it because I wanted the details. So I typed in Planned Parenthood Lumsden ABC sex card. There was a news article in Real Women of Canada, and there are specifics in it. The article that I prefer not to repeat, but I encourage you to find it. Now, the teacher said that they didn't know that the cards were there. We have heard that repeatedly. I didn't know what was in that book. I didn't know that was there. And I covered that in the last episode. Is it negligence? Is it incompetence? Or are they lying? Now, the other thing that happened was, well, it only happened in Lumsden. It's a one-off. It was this specific thing, and Planned Parenthood came in, and we didn't know that they were going to bring those cards. Well, that sounds good, but the next day, it was determined that the ABC sex cards were also made available to students in Whitewood 2 hours away on the same day that they were put in school in Lumsden. And Planned Parenthood Saskatchewan's response was that they were very upset that they wouldn't be allowed in schools anymore. So they'd obviously been allowed in schools up until that point. And it was a huge news story for a day until the lobby groups influenced the media, who flipped the story to one of censorship. And they presented 4 of the cards, I'm going to call them mild, to the media as proof that these are really not so bad. Now, they failed to mention the letter U. It's one they could have chosen. U stands for Europhilia. By the way, there's not 27, there's 54, because on one side is a big written, detailed explanation and description, and on the other side are images and pictures. So there's 54 of these cards, and U is for Europhilia. Urinating, that's my word, they used a different one. And crapping, that is the word they used, on your partner as play. Is this acceptable information for minors? It's degrading. This is government-funded education. And just to clarify, it's clear in the article, this is Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's allocation of funds. But it got accepted by the Saskatchewan Ministry of Education. Now, some schools in our province, due to the size of the community, are K to 12, all in one building. And there is no guarantee that those ABC cards wouldn't have made their way down to the elementary and even to the kindergarten classroom. We don't have a whole lot of control once the kids go in the door. And apparently the education system thinks it's fine that they're in there. So the issue was never about censoring. You can laminate them and use them for coasters in your living room if you like. But this is not educational material. It's not suitable for minors. Something else that the Planned Parenthood ABC sex cards say is there's a lot of different kinds of porn. There's something for everyone. And I specifically included that statement because in the next episode, we are going to understand the connection with Planned Parenthood and curriculum, and more specifically, International Planned Parenthood Federation and curriculum. So in December of 23, I asked the trustees, the director, and the superintendents in the meeting that we'd had with them, parents had requested a meeting, if they had read the alphabet cards. Not one person responded, and eye contact, that was avoided by just about everybody in the room, except for the MLA that was present. And he spoke for a few minutes after my presentation, and he said every MLA has seen every one of them. And that was why the notwithstanding clause was invoked. I have them all. I have them all. I've only looked at 7 of them. This is not censorship. This is wisdom. I asked the local principals this last April if they had seen them, and they both said no. And I said, really? So we showed them one, and the reaction was one of physical revulsion in an adult, but these are okay for the students. If the protest cries of how dare the government inhibit our ability to teach properly by censoring our resources are to be an indicator of how the education system felt, you would think that they would have taken the steps to back their claim that this censorship was unnecessary by having everyone working in the education system review the cards, if they were so innocent and acceptable. And surely they would have defended themselves by presenting all of them to the public, by presenting them to you, the parents. So following that legislation, every school division was instructed by the government to formulate new policy that aligned with the ruling. I did not know that until this spring. A parent from another division reached out, and she had gone to the principal of her school. She knew that they were to rewrite the policy, and she asked the principal, and he rebuffed her. He said that information will not be forthcoming, and don't bother to ask again. I'm not giving it to you. She said, I don't know, maybe they didn't even make a new policy, and he didn't tell me they hadn't made a new policy. And so I asked the director of education in Good Spirit School Division. And first of all, I was told that it had already been posted on the Good Spirit School Division Facebook page, and I was negligent for not finding it. He later in an email apologized and said, you know, it actually wasn't posted, and it has not yet been posted. So I will tell you what it is, because he did tell me. Any lesson plan regarding sexuality is to be submitted to Quentin Robertson 2 weeks before the date that it's planned to be taught. He determines if it is allowed or not. And he very proudly informed us that he had just recently had to quash a lesson plan because it was not suitable. I had a few questions. What if they don't submit their lesson plan to you? Well, they have to. It's a policy. And I'm like, what if they don't? Well, no, they have to. I've sent it out. They know what the policy is. And I'm going, but you have no way of guaranteeing that they're going to do it. Because they might think you might squash it and they want to teach it. He said, it's not going to happen. I said, what if they ignore you censoring, and yeah, I used that word on purpose, their plan, and they teach it anyways? Well, no, if I tell them no, they can't teach it, they can't teach it. You have no way of knowing whether they're going to do that or not. It's not like they sent you their only copy or they couldn't make another one. Are you planning on showing up in the classroom unannounced that day? You have no way of policing this policy. It's ineffective, powerless. What happens to the teacher if they ignore your instructions and teach it anyways and get caught? Well, we all know the answer. The answer to that is nothing. So since that conversation, every situation that has arisen, Quentin, you have claimed to not know anything about anything. You have placed the blame on teachers, librarians, educational assistants, and students. So who exactly is doing your job? And although you have proclaimed yourself, by the policy, the gatekeeper of family values, do your values reflect the values of all the families that are in this division? The answer is no. And it's like, well, but you know, we have to follow the curriculum. It comes down from the Ministry of Education. Our hands are tied. And I'm going to show you the roots of where the curriculum comes from next episode. But I'm so tired of this. Our hands are tired. The principal's hands are tired. The teacher's hands are tired. The director of education, the superintendent, no, everybody's hands are tired. We have no, tied. Our hands are tied. We have no choice. You know, and everybody's powerless. No one's accountable. But Quentin, you actually want this taught, and you are very comfortable with healthy boundaries being demolished as you brag to me about how happy you were. You were just about emotional about how happy you were because you were able to support students at a party that was put on for them by the division and held in the division office facility, celebrating their sexuality. That they finally had a place where they could be themselves. There's a significant imbalance of power, both between age and between a teacher and a student, that makes hosting such an event as that a questionable situation. Can you as parents imagine a sports coach throwing a party, not for the whole team, but just for the team that they even know? It's none of their business to know. It's nobody's business to know. So a sports coach celebrates how these minor athletes, because these are minors, express themselves sexually. See, as soon as we put it into the school building, somehow they think we've given them permission to do things that are not acceptable anywhere else in society. So you know what? It's easy enough for parents to teach their children what and when they want them to know regarding sexuality based on their maturity levels and their values. But it is impossible to unteach something that has been imprinted on a child before they are mature enough to handle it. So how dare the government interfere? Well, they dared. Parents for your children. And I encourage you, I am speaking as clearly as I can. But if this is going to shift, you need to join in and you need to make the time to communicate your concerns. Make phone calls, send emails. I think you can find a government website and send an email and it will get copied and sent to every single MLA in the province. Let them know what school division you're from, because I know people are listening to this all over. I got people listening in Ontario, weirdly enough. So we can make a difference and we can change things, but we have to do it together. So get to work. Talk to you later.